We're in drive. Excellent. Hello and welcome to the channel, welcome to the vlog, welcome to the car, welcome to Cornwall, welcome to It's a Grey Day. It is, well, it is March. Technically, spring. Technically spring, although officially spring doesn't start for another couple of weeks. It's because it's because February is so short, it kind of messes up the summer, winter, spring, autumn cycle. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about were two things. What I did this morning, because it relates to the car, and also writing, because I've started planning for another short story. So another 6,000 word story. And I thought they were quite relevant. So, the car. Last week, I was doing the vlog, and I noticed at the end of it, the low pressure warning light came on for the tires. And I was like, oh, low pressure warning, that's a bit of a problem. So I check the tires, I keep a foot pump in the back. So the things I keep in the back of the car, a full spare wheel in the wheel well, because you kind of have to. I keep a foot pump, because why would you not keep a foot pump in your car? And I keep a bottle of Windex or window cleaner, and some kitchen towel, because if you come back to your car and it's covered in bird poop, then you can wipe the bird poop off. If you come back to your car and your tire's a little low, you can pump your tires up. You know, it's all the basic stuff. Oh, and some de-icer as well, a little bottle of de-icer and a plastic, very important plastic scraper, because otherwise if you use a metal one, you'll scratch your windows to pieces. Good, I'm glad we could get that out of the way. But yeah, the tire pressure warning light came on. Pumped them up, because sometimes that happens. You just have you're a little low on gas. Pumped them up, and one of them was down. The driver's side front tire was a little low, lower than all the others. It was about 26 psi, and it should have been 30. And I was like, that's a bit of a problem. So I pumped it up, didn't think anything of it. 2 days later, the tire pressure warning light comes on again, and I'm like, ooh, that's a problem. So I, in the car park, you can do it at work or well, wherever you happen to have the space. So I put her on full lock and just rolled her forward a little bit at a time, got out, inspected the tire, and yeah, there's a roofing nail in it. And I was like, bums, don't want to deal with that. But I took the car, took it to MJB Tires in St. Earth, and I'll shout them out because they did a very good job in a much faster time than I was expecting. So I went there this morning, took the car into the tyre place this morning, MJB Tires in St. Earth, literally just rolled up outside, and a guy walked out and was like, oh, what's the problem? And I went nailing the tyre, and he was like, yeah, we could probably patch that. So I took a photograph of it, I showed him on the phone where it was on the tyre. Not that they needed that, because they were going to take the wheel off and have a look anyway. But and then I already had the locking wheel nut, so I handed that over to him, and yeah, they whipped it off 20 minutes later, and it was all done. 18 bucks, 18 pounds. So yeah, I couldn't believe it. Just in and out. It was great, and it's been fine. So that's this morning. That's this morning taken care of. So while that was happening, I charged all the cameras, and now we're doing a vlog, because I thought, yeah, let's do a vlog. So, planning for a story. Last week I said, hey, I've just finished the first of an anthology of stories, and I'm not going to read it on YouTube because YouTube would ban it. And they probably would. They probably would get a little bit saucy, because it is horror, because I've chosen to write for horror, and because the last act in the story it's not bloody, it's not gory, but I would say there's probably a trigger warning there for some people, and YouTube is pretty hot on that these days. But then that's horror. It's where, you know, it comes with the territory. So I finished that last time. We talked a little bit about AI, and then since last week I have started doing the planning. Planning is very simple. A lot more simple than it used to be, or at least it was taught to us. So if you're in English class, goddamn English class. I both loved and hated English in school. I tell you what, if we have time, I'll talk about my school English experience. But yeah, they would like, oh, write a prosthesis. No, that's the wrong word. That's a prosthetic. Write an outline of a story, and then blah, 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 and your blood would run cold. No, it's so much simpler, so much more simpler. That's not even English. That's a badly constructed sentence. I don't care. I'm driving. Yeah, just forget everything you learnt in English, basically. So in order to plan a story, and you need to plan because you need everything down on paper before you even start, it's very simple. As soon as we've done this junction, because it's blind, good. It's so simple. What you do is you pull into the bus stop and allow this car to go past. You sketch out an idea. And I think the word sketch is a very important word. You're not outlining a synopsis. You're not making a synopsis for your story. You're not doing any of these crazy words. You're sketching it out. And the only person who needs to read it is you. So it can be as detailed or as basic as you want it to be. But I like having at least a couple of paragraphs. Just to say what the story is and where it's going to go. Bad guy's going to blow up the world. Good guy turns up in a train station, picks up some flowers, and goes and beats the bad guy with them. That's a sketch. You can add a name of a town, town, because whatever. And you can add time of year and like weather and stuff. But it's literally just a sketch. It's a couple of paragraphs just to get in your mind what the story is going to be. And it can be, as simple and as basic as it needs to be, as long as you understand what you've written. The next bit I'd like to do, so once I've done the first sketch, the little outline, is I like to do the acts. So Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, one word. Act 1, train station. Act 2, car park. Act 3, beat bad guy overhead with flowers. That's not one word, but you kind of get the idea. And the reason I like having the acts is so that I know where people are going to be when I'm writing the story. What I don't want is to start writing away and then, oh, well, they get distracted and they go here and they go there and they go all over the place. And, oh, actually, no, this character is now in the wrong place. I want these two to have a conversation. And, oh, well, one's at the train station, one's in the car park. The acts really just help you put characters in places. And then the third thing I like to do when I'm planning is to get all the character names written down. And this is super important, like really important. I was going through the character names, and one of the things I like to do is have the protagonist's name shorter than the antagonist's name. So the good guy's name shorter than the bad guy's name. Or more accurately, the good girl's name? Good girl sounds kind of not as... Protagonist. We'll call them the protagonist. I tend to write a lot of female characters. I tend to play a lot of female video game characters. It's just something that happened. It just makes it easier. And I think for horror, because I envisage the audience being mostly female, it makes sense to have your protagonist a lady. It doesn't, like, for all the short stories I'm going to write, it doesn't mean that all of them will be ladies. It just makes it easier. But yeah, so get all the names down. Shorter names for the good guys, longer names for the bad guys if you need to have that. But it also means that you can kind of put the names next to each other and make sure names don't clash. So if you have like, oh, the good guy's name is 3 syllables and the bad guy's name is 3 syllables, and actually that doesn't quite work very well. Or the good guy's name starts with a B and the bad guy's name starts with a B, and that's also not going to work very well because it's kind of a little confusing. So planning and getting everything down before you even start writing is so important, because then you don't write half a story and go, you know what, I think I've messed up. I think I've got the setting wrong, or the time of year wrong, or it's raining when it should be sunny, or the names are wrong, and then you have to go back and edit your story, and then you start wasting time. That's when you start actually wasting time as you're writing. So yeah, planning, super important, and it can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. But forget long words that you learned in English. Forget the word synopsis and forget everything else. Just, it's a sketch. It really is just sketching things down loosely and just making sure that you yourself know what's going on. Good. All right. I think that's about everything. Yeah, it is. That road is still lumpy bumpy. Everything is still crumbling under the old tires. So yeah, English. All right, yeah, planning. Even talking about planning was a lot simpler than I thought it was going to be. God damn, English. So when I was in school, we actually moved halfway across the country. So for the last 2 school years, for my GCSE years, the General Certificate of School Education in the UK, we moved from Oxfordshire, which is, I mean, you can tell I'm from Oxfordshire. My voice is an Oxford English accent. So we moved from Oxfordshire down to Cornwall. And on my first day of English, I walked into the classroom. I had a sheet and it told me where I needed to be. And in my old school, I was top set English, which is not surprising. Well, it's not surprising to you guys, I guess. And I walked into this classroom, and it's probably not. I just had to pop my ears. It's not fair to call people window lickers, I guess. But honestly, when the other kids are actually tongue on glass, and you walk in and you're like, maybe I shouldn't be here. So I stuck my hand up and I said, hey, in my old school I was top set English. Why am I in remedial English? And the teacher said, oh, well then get out and go to top set English. Go to the other ladies' class. So I got on my stuff and I walked into the other ladies' class. This is my first week at a new school. And the other lady was like, what are you doing here? I was standing in front of a whole classroom of kids I didn't know. What are you doing here? Why are you here? And she got up and she stormed out. She stormed out and she went to the head of English, whose class I just left. And she came back like 5 minutes later and she was like, well, sit down, find a seat, sit down. That was my first interaction with a new teacher. She was not kind, she was not helpful. So I sat down in the first empty seat that I saw, and that was next to a girl from my tutor group. So we had class groups and we had tutor groups. And the tutor group, you had morning and morning and afternoon one. And the morning and afternoon ones were basically just to register you into the school. So anyway, I sat down next to this girl, and the actual class itself was a pain in the ass. I wrote a short story because we were asked to write short stories, and the teacher that I had, I went all in on it. Teacher that I had, she said, well, I wanted to give you a C for your short story. I wanted to give you a C. Oh, all right. But the head of English wanted to give you an A. The head of English wanted to give me an A, and she wanted to give me a C. So she, well, I compromised and gave you a B instead. And I'm just like, I hate you. I hate you as a teacher. And when it came to actually the GCSE tests, because you got 2 tests for GCSE, language and literature, she said, well, I don't think you're going to do very well. So I put you in a like a remedial level, a lower level test. And I was like, why? Oh, well, I don't think you can do very well. Well, I aced the test. And I remember the test because there was a short story on the literature paper, I think. And I remember the short story that I wrote. It was a short story about 2 police officers, and they were walking home after a shift and the sun was coming up over the city. I can't remember what the prompt was for the story. I think it was just write a short story of so many words. And I was like, paper, I need more paper. So I ended up getting more sheets of paper because this story was just like, yeah, I was just like pouring stuff down onto the paper, and I ended up acing the test, like straight up acing the test, to a point where I could have probably done a lot better in a higher tier English, test, but my English teacher just didn't have the faith in me. What's even better is that I went there when I started working. I actually ended up working at that school as IT support. I think we've mentioned it before, and she was there for first year or so, and she didn't change. She hadn't changed as a human being. Like, she was still that human being. We didn't actually spend much time talking to each other, but in terms of having to repair her stuff, she was the one that managed to get her laptop run over on a motorway. She had an MGB GT, and the rear latch on her car opened up and spilled a load of stuff out. It was like, oh, can you get the stuff off my laptop? And we were like, yeah, we can do that. This is going to be interesting. This bus is... I know there's a car in front of the bus as well. Cool. Yeah, gives us time to talk. Yeah, we did manage to get the stuff off there, but the laptop was pancaked. Like, amazingly we got the stuff off there, because if you don't know, the old drives, the old 2.5-inch drives in laptops, they have spinning platters, but the platters are made of glass, not metal, like they are in a desktop hard drive. So yeah, she was very lucky that we managed to get anything off of that. We couldn't, I think we had to start it up blind because the screen was destroyed. But for some reason we couldn't get the drive out. It was like physically impossible to get the drive out. It was so lucky that we got anything off that thing. But anyway, yeah, didn't like my English teacher. And the first novel that I wrote was essentially just, I wanted to write a novel to see if I could do it. That was the New Phoenix novel. That's a cyberpunk novel. And I just wanted to write a novel to see if I could do it, to prove that my English teacher was wrong. Now I just want to write because I like writing. I think I've always liked writing. But yeah, no, that was the thing. And the girl, I'm not going to say her name. James knows who she is. But yeah, I had a bad time in school, like a super bad time in school. And what I didn't know is where it would lead. So yeah, I remember the conversation. We would talk in English, and I remember just like looking forward to English class. I hated the teacher, but I loved talking to this girl. She was just this like ray of goddamn sunshine in an otherwise terrible week. And I remember her talking about how that she'd also moved down from up country. She'd actually moved from Surrey, and my grandmother had lived in Surrey. And in fact, I remember going to the house in Surrey, and it was just this, like, again, that was a wonderful time going to spend time with my grandmother at this old house with a box hedge in the garden and everything. So when she was talking about where she was from, I kind of had an idea. Yeah, I love talking to her. The thing is, our school had a prom. It had a prom, and I really, really wanted to ask her out to the prom. And I didn't quite get that far. Partly because I was kind of an anxious kid, and partly because the thing that I didn't know was happening was I was falling backwards into depression. So by the time I hit college, by the time we went to college, depression was just full on, and there was no like mental health awareness like there is now. I even went to the doctor, and the doctor just looked at me and said, "Well, I don't know what to do. I can give you drugs, but nothing else." Then there was no referrals back then. It's like, well, not down in Cornwall there wasn't. And I said, I'm not taking drugs. So I just had to deal with it myself. Yeah, no, she was great, but I was kind of, on the inside, I was slowly falling apart. And it's kind of interesting because was it after college? I had a CX500, a black motorbike. So I started off with Mum's Honda Rebel. I started riding motorbikes in college. Mum was like, oh, I've upgraded my bike I've passed my test, upgraded my bike. You can use my old bike to learn how to ride on. And I was like, all right. I wanted to learn how to drive cars. I did at the same time, but I didn't have a car. So I passed my bike test and I got a black Honda CX500, a 1978 Honda CX500. And I was kind of doing it up at the time. I remember that. And I was actually in the surgery. And I was picking up a prescription for Ventolin because I have asthma. It's not a bad like asthma, but I was picking up Ventolin or salbutamol, which is the actual chemical name. Ventolin is like a branded version of salbutamol, and my world had just kind of shrunk down to, it was just, oh piss. It was just kind of just down to me. I can't get in any closer. Sorry, dudes. So, yeah, we've got an island to the other side of us, so these cars can't move anywhere. Nobody can move until the bus moves. So that's a bit unfortunate for us and everyone else. And I can't back up because there's a Mini behind us, or a Beetle. All right, we're here. So yeah, I was picking up a prescription, and depression had kind of closed the world right in at that point. And I was out in the car park, just gonna get on the bike, and the same girl that I was in English with was like, hey, did you not notice me? And I was like, oh shit, the one person I should have noticed. And I was like, I'm sorry. I kind of made my apologies and kind of left. Oh boy, I was a wreck. To say that I was a wreck in college is no understatement. I'm better now, much better now, like 100% better now than I ever was. I would never have been able to talk in front of a camera like this when I was in that place. I had to pull myself out of it. And the way I pulled myself out of it was probably the motorbike, actually. The freedom that the motorbike had, or gave me, and the ability to just go places when I felt unwell. Just get on the bike and just give it the beans and go somewhere. Yeah. One of my greatest regrets is not asking this girl out to the prom. 100%. But we move on. Time moves on. Time stops from no one, and we can't look back. So, yeah. So English, didn't like the class, but did like the people. Can we get around this lad? No, his butt is sticking way out. Can't get around him. Oh well. It's a nice long ride behind the bus, I guess. Yeah, motorbikes. So I started off on Mum's Honda Rebel, which was a 125, and I used to ride that to visit my grandmother. So I go and visit my grandmother, and it was a 6-hour ride on the A303. I think we need to stop here and let the bus go through because there's more cars the other side of him. So yeah, the A303, I would ride all the way up there on a 125 at about 50 mile an hour. It was a slow old journey. That was a slow old journey. Then the bike I had after that was the black Honda CX500. That was actually a college project. It got chopped in half and it was going to be turned into a trike. And what ended up happening was, it was good that we chopped it in half because the original frame was rusted through. So what I did was, I didn't, and the person who restored it put a new frame in for me. And yeah, it had a few problems initially, but it was a good bike. I really liked the 500. It was slow though. Shaft drive, because if you're gonna have a motorbike, then I would 100% recommend a shaft drive bike over a chain drive bike. I'll get to that momentarily. The next bike I had after that was a Honda CX650. So it was a red version of the same bike with a bored out engine and better frame and better fairings and everything. The Honda CX650 was, oh my God, it was like night and day. It was such a lovely bike. I loved the CX50, but it just got too old. That was an 84 Honda CX650, and then the bike I had after that was the Kawasaki 2009 ER6F, the Baby Ninja, the untuned Baby Ninja, because for that year they used the same fairings and bodywork as the Kawasaki Ninja 650 RR. and that was a chain drive bike. And every year I would get 2 new tyres, a chain and sprocket set, and new brake pads. Because I would go through tyres, brakes, chains and sprockets kind of roughly every 10 months. Yeah, I would just take the teeth off of the sprockets, of the drive sprocket, which is something I never managed to do on the CXs because the CXs were both shaft drive. But yeah, I was a little bit heavy on the old throttle. So to say I gave the bikes the beans is no understatement. And how fast would they go? Well, the 650s were about 127, and I can tell you that they were 127 because I took one to a Run What You Brung. It was a drag race, a drag event on an airstrip, Portreath airstrip, and you could you would pay, and then you would go round, and you would just keep going down the strip. It was a 1/4 mile drag strip, and I was told that my reaction times were excellent, and it was only the bike that was holding me back in terms of speed. But yeah, 127 was about as much as a 650 would do. So that was fine, because if I got a bike any faster than that, I would probably try and take it faster. But the Kawasaki was the last of the bikes that I had. I got the car at about the same time, because at that time my neck was really beginning to start hurting. I'd ridden bikes since college, and it was a fair old go. So let's go this way. Let's not follow the bus through there. Let's join the bypass. So yeah, I really did enjoy riding motorbikes. I rode them through all weathers. Hail is probably the worst weather you can ride through because you get hit by rocks in the legs and shins. I've ridden in the snow. It's not that much of a problem. Rain. Any type of rain you have will eventually just go through your wet weather gear and get your gentleman's area soaked. Because it comes down off your jacket and down off the fuel tank, your lap ends up in the water. So yeah, there's nothing you can do. Let's see about this. We have a lot of traffic today. It is a Saturday, but this will go up tomorrow. So we'll use our horses. Excellent. And we will just go through. Excellent. One of the nice things about this car, I did have very briefly for about 2 weeks a Renault Clio, a diesel Renault Clio, naturally aspirated, and I hated it. I actually gave it to my sister. I said, sign this, it's yours. Because compared to a motorcycle, the acceleration was not there. This, on the other hand, because it's got the electric motor attached to a petrol motor, yeah, compared to a motorbike, it's got the acceleration if you want it. I wouldn't recommend it because you'll scrub the tires, but yeah, this car, oh my god, yeah, if you need it, it has the horses. So yeah, things that I've done today, got the old tire fixed. We've been planning a story in the last week. We talked about how much I hated and loved English for 2 very different reasons, and all the bikes that I've had, and yeah, that I had depression. It's one of those things you got to keep an eye on and kind of keep up. It's one of the reasons I actually sleep with a light on. I have mentioned that I sleep with a light on. It's a lot dimmer than it used to be. I used to sleep with like a 120 watt light on, couldn't sleep otherwise. And now it's like a 6 watt light. But yeah, that's kind of the tail end of that. But as long as you keep an eye on it, keep up with your exercise, keep things clean, and make sure you get enough vitamins and minerals. Yeah, it's one of those things you can keep up with. So good. And it's also YouTube has helped, I guess, because it gives me something to do when I'm not at work. Gives me a framework, something to keep my mind occupied, and also skills that I need to work on. So it's good to keep busy, I think. That's the other thing. Anxieties aside, yeah, I'm in a much better place than I used to be. So good. Looking forward to getting another story done. Time is going to be, well, I mean, I work full time, and I do YouTube when I'm not doing that, and anything else is usually sleeping, so that's fun. But let's hold this down because there was a car behind us. Yeah, it'll get done. The stories will get written in their own time, and it's not so much of a problem writing stories in their own time because it allows you to really polish them. I do like short stories. Short stories, beep, really allow you to fine-tune a very small area of work, so you can really just get the polish in. As long as the core of the story is good to begin with, yeah, you can really tighten it up. You don't need to throw more words at it because more words might spoil things. So never been in a rush to add too many words to your story. If it's a short story, or if you don't need those words and it works without them, then that's how your story should be. It's almost like sculpting, when you're knocking bits out of like stone, but you can see the sculpture underneath. It's kind of how it is. Stories will effectively write themselves. You just need to put the words down. Good, well, thank you for watching. If you like this, definitely leave a little like and a little subscribe. Dingle the bingle if you want notifications. Don't dingle the bingle if you don't. For everyone who has, there's a little bit of dust. For everyone who has supported me on Ko-fi, I see you. I don't know how to thank you via Ko-fi itself. It's such a basic system. But thank you. I mean, the electricity bill has literally landed on my doormat this morning. I'm going to have to pay that today. So that's where that goes to. But yeah, no, thank you everyone who has supported me that way. And I tell you what, I'll catch you next time.